Hey everybody, this is Javi, and you are watching the Bowtie Psychic here on YouTube. I am a psychic and intuitive medium who focuses on generational trauma and ancestral healing through divination. Welcome, and I'm so glad that you're here to watch this video. I'm actually finishing up the videos for the month of June, and today I'm pulling cards for Sagittarius. So watch the video, all of it, and if it resonates with you, be sure to subscribe to the channel, share, and like the video. Tell your friends about me. And you can also reach out by emailing me at bowtiepsychic@gmail.com, or you can schedule a reading at bowtiepsychic.com. So I already pulled cards for Sagittarius, and y'all, we got around 6 of them. So I'm going to read three off to you right now, and then like pull the rest of them, um, you know, pull the rest of them when I'm done with the first three. But what I got when I tapped into Sagittarius energy, because y'all have like a whole story of wanting to be the best, and I'm also getting a lot of emotional stuff too, and like this gut energy that I have, like this when it comes to power. Um, I feel it in my solar plexus, and what I'm getting straight away is that a lot of you like crave power, you crave, um, and not in a bad way. I'm not saying you're out here to like be sinister and take over the world or whatnot, like some like comic book villain or anything. But what I am is to think saying, and what I'm getting from spirit is that a lot of you are just wanting, you want to. You want to feel that sense of power, and you want to be successful as well. I'm getting that from Capricorn, but it's not like Capricorn. They're also craving, not craving structure, but you crave power. And the reason why I'm getting that is because a lot of you are very successful oriented. A lot of you have that fire energy. You feel that in the pit of your stomach, that you have a lot to offer to the world, and you do have a lot to offer to the world. But what I'm also getting is that you're very frustrated and you're very impatient. I feel a lot of impatience with Sagittarians. Um, the reason being is because a lot of you are intellectual, a lot of you are very um, intelligent, but you don't know how to use that intellect. Um, and when you do use it, it's as if like you feel like people do not understand your genius. Um, you don't know where to go, and you don't know where to apply it. And so, as a result of that, there's this bit of frustration. I'm getting that before I even look at the cards, and so a lot of that frustration, um, is still, you are to let go of that, and you are to let go of. I'm assuming that this is the same story that you have received before um, the Sagittarius, where, and I feel like you are better off tapping. Some of you also have like an Earth sign, maybe like a Capricorn. Um, I'm getting more Capricorn in your chart, so and actually, a lot of you are on the you're going to be working with a lot of Capricorn energy in the future as well. I'm getting that you're going to be working with a lot of Capricorn energy because Capricorn, you're right next to it. So um, what I'm getting from Spirit is you're going to be using that in the future. A lot of that energy from Capricorn season is going to be used to your advantage. Um, Also, keep in mind that I'm asking for the month of June here, Spirit. So I'm getting a lot of future stuff for you. And the reason why I'm getting that is because Sagittarius is always thinking about the future. You're always thinking about the future and what you can do for the future. That's why I'm getting that. And you're always worried about your future, which is why you're always thinking, where am I to put my talents? Where am I to put my a lot of my energy? I'm not getting anything as far as temperament, but I am getting a lot of emotional stuff. Y'all do have the tendency to blow up. I'm going to be honest with you. You have the tendency to blow up. You have the tendency to actually um, you take things to a whole nother level when you feel like you're not being, and your words and your intellect is not being taken seriously. So be aware of that, especially during Cancer season, because Cancer season is coming up, and you have 4 retrogrades coming up. So just be aware of your energy and where you put it, and where, um, and also pick and choose your battles. Because what I'm getting for you, Sagittarius, is that um, because the 4 retrogrades are going to affect you um, more so than not, because of the lack of communication. Mercury is going to be one of the planets that are in retrograde. So you're going to be basically like, when it comes to communication, there's going to be some struggles. There's going to be some struggles. You're going to think that people are not understanding what you're saying. You're going to be thinking that people are not understanding what you're trying to do. And as a result of that, you're going to be one to blow up. So just be aware. Just be aware. And I'm also getting like another card pertaining to your emotional state. But the first card that you received is the 8 of Earth. And you got this card because this person, straight up and flat out, you're actually doing at this moment. You're being told to stay in your emotions and be literally hold yourself together to calm down and stand in your power. This individual, she knows who she is. I mean, I'll put this right here. She knows who she is. She's standing in her own power. She's calm and she's cool and collected. You are to be cool, calm, and collected, which is why you're being told to look into your chart to see if you have Capricorn energy anywhere near there. Because what's happening is that for the month of June, because of Cancer season, again, um, there's going to be some stuff coming up as far as your emotional state, and there's also like this. You're like very impatient. You're ready to fly. You're ready to change your life. You're ready to pretty much change the world and people, and to show people your power. You're literally working. Um, you're doing all this studying and you're doing all this working, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I have all this intellectual information. Now it's time for me to apply it. Now it's time for me to basically, um, literally hearing the words, rule the world with it. And you're being told to stay steady, be patient, be cool, calm, and collected, and to remain calm. Okay? You're being told to remain calm. Um, you're being told to remain calm because, yeah, you have the tendency to keep moving. People have a hard time keeping up with you. Your Not only does your emotional state um, is always in constant movement, but you are in constant movement physically. So people will have a hard time keeping up with you intellectually as well as physically, and you're being told to stay put, at least learn how to stay grounded. So meditation is extremely important. You don't necessarily have to stay in one spot to meditate. You can walk around, listen to music, guided meditation, something that will quiet your mind and quiet your energy a little bit, so you can literally intuitively know ways. Um, or at least have spirit um, give you downloads as to how to connect with other human beings in a way that is more that is thoughtful and authentic, and also not as intimidating. And what I mean by intimidation, I'm not talking about you scaring people. I'm talking about you basically being patient with folks, and knowing that not everyone um, thinks the way you do. Not everything is about the way you think. People have different ways of learning, and you are to be respectful of that. I'm also getting too that um, you are literally being told to just be patient with other people, because again, not everybody has your way of thinking. Not everybody has your way of learning. Not everyone is like this computer brain. You know what I mean? So not everyone is analytical, and not everyone is. Uh, People have their own way of being analytical. Do not try to get into arguments with people simply because they don't see the way the world as you do. So that's why you're being told to remain calm, especially when it comes to dealing with other people and dealing with their emotions and dealing with their own ways of thinking. You know, your opinions and their opinions may mesh, or yes, they may mesh, but they also may collide. You just have to walk. Um, you basically just have to walk away from that. Learn how to walk away from people. Learn how to uh, not just walk away from people, but walk away from their opinion and let them have that opinion. Because just like Gemini's, your opposite sign, Gemini's also have the tendency to argue. So it's like just be aware. Just be aware of your temperament. Be aware of the fact that not everyone is going to um, see the world as you do. Also, you have this is why you have the intellectual card. This card is like one of my favorites because it talks about technology. It talks about intellect. It talks about how you see the world from a scientific standpoint. A lot of you are very scientific, and when I'm thinking about science, I think of analytical analyze it, like yeah, analysis, like technology analysis, um, left brain type of stuff. And so, what I'm getting from that is that you're very, very, very analytical, Sagittarius. Very analytical. Some of y'all are time travelers. To be honest with you, like, or at least not some of you, but a lot of you are time travelers. A lot of you are Doctor Who's in the making. To be honest with you, like you, even though let's say whether you are spiritual or not, whether you believe in time travel or not, a lot of you um, are basically tapped into space and the universe in a way uh, that is more that is more scientific. You look at the universe in another way. Um, you look at the stars and the constellations, and you look at how our galaxy is built, and you look at it in a way that is very unique and very, very uh, like you wear science on your sleeve, but you don't know how to convey that. And so, as a result of you not knowing how to convey that, that adds to your frustration. So there's, I just see like a lot of textbook. Oh, excuse me, dropping cards here. A lot of textbook type of energy that I'm getting from you. Like a science professor, um, not necessarily believing in astrology. You're more of an astronomy individual because it's more tangible, and science is very absolute, unless proven otherwise. And so that's the type of brain that you are working with the majority of the time. That's the type of brain, that you are operating with. And so again, when people don't understand where you're coming from, or when it comes to anything, scientific, and people try to argue with you and say something completely different, when you know better, you get angry. And so you're literally being told to, like, that's why you're being told to walk away from conversations and let people have their opinion. This is also the time, if you are also, this is for spiritual science people who are also spiritual, you understand. You understand that science and spirituality go hand in hand. This is a time for you to actually um, show the world how the two of them go very well with one another. See, science and spirituality, they complement one another because what spirituality cannot explain, science will prove eventually, or has proven. What science cannot explain, uh, spirituality can explain. So you're literally being told to like, look, this is Sagittarians are um, are to be very mindful of how they can actually show people how science, how science and how science can actually explain why meditation can actually have a spiritual um, can have like can enhance someone's spirituality. You can explain how spirituality um, you can explain how spirituality plays a huge part in how people how people eat and how people can heal themselves. You know, you can explain how from a scientific perspective how people can literally heal themselves, how people can time travel, how people how certain foods can can heal someone spiritually or enhance someone's spirituality. How different dimensions can actually open the portal or have different portals. How we just don't die. You can explain um, how through psychic ability people can predict when something catastrophic is going to happen, and how we can use science to prevent that or to prepare for the worst. We can talk about how there's so much you can talk about how basically the spirit world exists and how it's not a figment of our imagination, but to see how we can scientifically measure the spirit world and how it affects the brain, how tapping into the spirit world affects the brain chemistry, and affects one's energy. Sagittarius, this is your job to explain this, especially if you are a spiritual individual who studies light work, who studies certain types of religions, certain types of spiritual paths. This is what you are to be doing with your energy and with your time. Because a lot of you are just thinking like, what do I do? What do I do? How do I prove? How do I measure? You know, and Spirit is basically saying incorporate spirituality into your work, into your science, and for those who are spiritual, incorporate science into your spiritual work. Incorporate science into your spiritual work. I'm thinking about this whole thing of energy and how people with psychic abilities and people who are tapped into their spiritual abilities, how they can manipulate and bend energy so they can better communicate with the spirit world for those who have passed on, physically passed on. Study how energy or use any information about energy to explain how um, people can actually talk with to each other without speaking a word. How telepathy is really a thing. How people can use energy to literally materialize into, to other people's houses. How energy can actually um, evoke uh, or prevent an entity from coming into your space. How energy um, can like basically enhance spell work. This is your time to use any time you have to study science and how on a spiritual level, even our like because the mind, body, and the mind, the body, and the spirit is definitely yes, there's definitely that connection exists. But what's the scientific component to that? How can we scientifically um, explain the importance of the mind, body, and spirit connection? So this is what Sagittarians are being being told by spirit to look into, as far as the marriage between science and spirituality, to explore the many ways um, to to to, uh, to explain how the two go together and how they can explain the mind body experience, the mind body spirit experience, the whole triad. Okay, so you also have the 10 of the 10 of air, or I'm sorry, the 10 of water. I always get the two of them mixed up. I'm so sorry. The 10 of water. So basically, what I'm getting from this is a fire. Wow, this is the 10 of fire. I always get I get them mixed up every once in a while. I apologize. But basically, this is the 10 of fire. This is a time for you to open up spiritually and not care about what other people think about your ideas, especially if you are a Sagittarius who is very spiritual. This is not the time for you to care about what other people think. And the more that you open up and the more that you start to literally step into your own power, your own spiritual power, and your own spiritual intellect, and start thinking about things in a whole new different way, you'll start to feel this is where your power is going to come from. When we stop thinking about things in a way that is very, how do I say this? Sometimes it is best to just throw society out the window as far as how they tell us how we're supposed to think. We're not supposed to think in 3D. We're not supposed to think in 3D. We're not supposed to think in 3D as far as, you know, how basically how the world basically always seeing what we believe, always believing what we see. Because sometimes what we see ain't for us. What we see may be a mere illusion. What we see could be a distraction from literally seeing the truth about how we as human beings are not really human beings, but spiritual beings living human experiences. They don't want us to know that. They rather see spiritual people as crazy. They rather see us as I say crazy because I'm starting to question the whole concept of of the mental illnesses that we have been a lot of us have been diagnosed with. That's a whole nother video altogether. A whole nother video altogether. I'm not ready for that. You know what I mean? But what I'm being told to tell you is that we can no longer care about what society thinks about us. We are, especially those who are born on the Sagittarius. A lot of you, there's a lot of you who are able to use both sides of your brain. You're literally able to do that. I think that for the most part, I believe that we're all able to do that to a certain degree. I believe that we're all able to do that, but some are more advanced than others as far as um, using both sides of our brain. I think more are like those folks who are more advanced and are able to see the world in not just 3D, but 4D or 5D. They just don't know it because we live in a society where we are being told that we are to think a certain way. The human brain, as far as the way it's studied, we haven't even tapped into like the power of the human brain in all its capacities. We only know like a fraction of we only have like as far as information, we only have a fraction of it. Okay, so what we're being told, what Sagittarians are being told, is that we are to scrap any information, or at least start to question the information that are given. Um, and when I say we, I mean society, the human beings. Who is our like? Where is our as far as information? Like you are to use your brain power to question this world and how, on the intellectual level, we are being told to be a certain way and act a certain way, think a certain way. Those who are spiritual, Sagittarians who are intellectual and spiritual and scientific, you're being told to use your brain power and to step into your power as an intellectual to basically question what all we have been taught. You're literally being told that. So because I noticed that uh, a lot of y'all who are halal Sagittarians who are using both parts of their brain, or anyone who is using both parts of your brain, you're being told that usually you're often being, because of our school system, the way that the way we're taught, the way our education system is set up, the industrial complex is a whole mess, but we'll get into that later, is literally being um, it is literally being used to teach children, especially those who are naturally intuitive, because kids are naturally intuitive, that we are taught, or we're literally being taught that we are to think one way or another. It's really hard for those who are working with both sides of their brains to literally think one way or another. You see things in a whole different perspective. You see things from a whole different perspective. You see everything in 5D, 6D, probably 7D and above, and you're dealing with people who are on a whole different lower level, and they're telling you how to think and how you should think. That causes confusion for any child. Flash forward, you're an adult and you still don't know what to do with yourself. You go to school, you switch majors, you switch jobs, you're mad and you're frustrated because anything you do, you lose interest right away. That's because you're not of this world. You're not. The way you like the way you have it. That's why I'm being told that to check to see whether or not you are star seeds, whether or not you're an indigo child, something around that area, because a lot of y'all, like a lot of you, a lot of us, not just a lot of y'all, but a lot of us, especially those with certain brain chemistries, they're not human. We are not human. We have to um, I should say how it's best for us to recognize that we are not human and that a lot of us are extraterrestrials and a lot of us are advanced. A lot of us are very much advanced. Sagittarians with included, especially those who are working with both parts of their brain. So the more you learn about yourself and the more you realize that you are more of a spiritual person and you have a bigger person of purpose in life, the more you will stand in your power and realize that you, as far as your intellectualism and your love for information, you are here. You're literally taught to basically um, buck the system in some way, shape, or form. Buck the system intellectually. So, so this is why you got this card right here. I think it was upside down. Was this upside down, Spirit? Okay, it was upside down, but upside down. Okay, so so you got the intellect and emotional card, and so basically what this card says, Spirit, Spirit, well you know pretty much, Sagittarius, is that um, this is a time for you to not let your intellect and your emotions not be aligned. Okay, that's the thing with people with two, especially Sagittarians. Y'all have the tendency to be all either all emotion or all intellect, and this is a problem. Okay, this is an issue because when you're one or the other and there's no alignment, it shows. It shows in how you show up for yourself and how you show up for other people. It shows in how you interact with people. It shows in how it shows up in your frustrations, for lack thereof. Um, so you're literally being told to get your emotions and your intellect aligned, because if not, um, chances are there's always going to be this confusion. There's always going to be this confusion as to who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. There's always going to be this confusion as to, you know, um, as 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 and what you're supposed to be doing. There's always going to be that confusion. There's always going to be that confusion as to where, um, as to where you're like, you know, where do you go? What am I supposed to be doing? First and foremost, get your intellect and your emotions in check. And the more you know about yourself on the intellectual level and how your brain chemistry works and how your the way you think plays into your spirituality. And I'm not talking about your subconscious thoughts, but your brain, like your actual brain, in all its capacities. How that can be used um, in your favor, like on a spiritual level. But you cannot do that if your emotions are everywhere or your intellect is actually your, you know, because intellect and emotions, when they're aligned, disaligned like that, unaligned like that, um, ego can get in the way real quick. So you are to check your intentions. And so, as far as you being too emotional or too intellectual, ask yourself why that is, and what can you do to prevent that from happening over and over and over again, as far as your how you show up in the world, because you're very much needed. Your intellect is needed. Your fire is needed. Um, but this is also a time for you to pick and choose your battles, and so this is why your intellect and your intellectual side and your emotional side are to be aligned. I'm not saying to be perfect, but they are to be aligned. Because when they're aligned, you're able to pick and choose your battles wisely. You're able to pick and choose whether or not You are going to argue with this person or put your energy into this project, or your energy here, there, and everywhere. Like, being aligned and being and stepping into your power basically determines whether or not you're going to spend your energy on something, and your time on something, your resources on something. So basically, you're being told to, you know, get everything together. As far as your how you your intellect and your emotional state, make sure those are in check. Um, because if not, again, you're going to be in that state of confusion. So you also have this upside down. You have like the five of, or the four of Earth. I'm sorry, no, it's six of Earth. And so what this card is basically saying is that when it comes to other people, be aware that not everyone is going to hear what you're saying, and not everyone's going to save you. Not everyone is going to save you. Not everyone is going to agree with you. And be aware that you're not going to be thanked for the information that you come up with. You're not going to be thanked all the time. You're not going to see the fruits of your labor all the time. Not everyone is going to see the way you see the world all the time. So be prepared to be alone, or be looked at as if you lost your damn mind. I'm just letting you know. Just be prepared for that, because not everyone is going to thank you for what you do. And not everyone, like, you have to be like, this is why you're being told to stand into your own power. Because once, especially if you are a spiritual person and a science person, and you're an intellectual and a scientific person, um, be aware that people are not going to hear what you're saying. Be aware that you're going to be asked to, you know, come up with citations that are not, in magazines like Science Mind. Be aware that you're going to be asked to, put out citations, articles. People are going to be asking you for proof of what you're talking about. And there may not be any. Because a lot of this work, a lot of spiritual work, unless it's published in a peer-reviewed journal, it's going to be unproven, because you're going by intellect and you're going by a spiritual track. So be aware that you are going to be questioned. Your sanity is going to be questioned. Your sanity is going to be questioned. You are going to be questioned. Your credibility is going to be questioned, especially if you use your resources to literally prove your points. Especially if you're using your intellect and your resources to prove the hypotheses regarding spirituality, and whether or not X, Y, and Z can be proven scientifically. Be aware that people are going to think like you lost your whole damn mind. There are many, many scientists there are scientists who risk their whole career proving that God exists, or proving that, time travel is real. There are people who have been laughed at. This is how it is. You already know that the spiritual journey is not for the faint of heart. You already know this. You already know this. So just be aware that you're not going to more likely see the fruits of your intellectual and spiritual labor because people are not going to hear what you're saying because it's spiritual or something that, in this 3D world is pretty much unheard of. But please know that you're also being heard by people who understand on a spiritual level what you are talking about. Please be aware that people, you have a whole audience waiting for someone like you. Please be aware of it. Because even though you may not have your time in this lifetime, you definitely planted a seed in the mind of someone who does know and resonate with what you're talking about. Especially when it comes to marrying science with spirituality. So this whole reading is about you using your intellect and your creativity, Sagittarius, to find ways to marry science and spirituality and to share that with the world. That's why you're being told, like, you cannot care about. You have to get out of. You have to get out of this perception of self-doubt and saying, like, people gonna think I'm nuts. People already probably think that way about you anyway. Doesn't matter. Why bust up any opportunity for you to have an influence on someone who's looking for you simply because someone else may not understand what you're saying? This is why the perception card is upside down. I'm getting we don't have time, especially in this day and age, where we have all this technology at our disposal. We don't have time for anyone who is so afraid of what other people are thinking of them. We don't have time for none of that. Because the old ways of thinking, the old perceptions of this world and how things are supposed to be are dying out. And people are looking for something new, innovative. People are looking for the truth. People are looking for proof of the truth. And it takes people like you. It takes people, spiritual people like us. It takes people who are willing to risk being laughed at and risk being ridiculed to show the world that something is different. There is something different. We really don't have time to care about what people are thinking. 3D people they're not, so because here's the thing. They really don't care about what you think of them. 3D people don't care about what you think of them. 3D people have been living people, and I mean when I say 3D people, I'm thinking about people who are not awakened yet, don't have it, or if they are awake, they're not. They're awake in a whole different way that has nothing to do with the betterment of the world. They're not worried about what you're thinking. They're not. They're not losing sleep over whether a spiritual person may lose their job because they use their scientific knowledge to prove that a spirit exists. They're not losing nothing. So why would you care about what they think of you or or their perception of you? When they're out here living their best life. There are people who are using their spirituality to cause more chaos than not, and they are not losing any sleep over those who are doing the complete opposite. So why are you worried about what other people are thinking about you right now, Sagittarius? I know it's getting dark because it's now at 9 o'clock where I am, So if you cannot see me or y'all think that something's going weird, that's going wrong, that's what's going on. But anyway, I'm just letting you know, Sagittarius, that this is not the time for you to lose any sleep. This is not the time for you to lose any sleep over anything or anything a person says. For some reason, I'm thinking about A Wrinkle in Time. A Wrinkle in Time is basically about a young woman who uses a math. It's a beautiful book, by the way. It's a whole series, but A Wrinkle in Time itself is a beautiful book about um, a young woman by the name of Meg, who uses math um, to save her father from another dimension. And he himself was a scientist who proved that um, there that different dimensions existed, and people laughed at him. He disappeared. People think that he lost his mind and left. But in actuality, he pretty much was upon a scientific discovery and just so happened to be caught up. You are basically, this is your wrinkle in time. Sagittarius, this is definitely your wrinkle in time. Your version of it. Even if it means risking your career or risking their perception of your sanity or how they look at you. This is not the time to be afraid anymore. This is a time for you to use both sides of your brain to tap into your purpose. This is the time. This is the time. There are too many aliens out here, or too many people, who are willing to listen to you out here. There are too many of us out here. At this point, we need people like you. That's why you have both sides of your brain operating. You're literally not meant to be confused like this. I'm just letting you know. So that's all I have for Sagittarius. That's all Spirit has. That's your story. That's the story that's the Spirit has for you. And if you resonate with this in any way, shape, or form, you can follow the Bowtie Psychic YouTube page. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit that subscribe button so you will never, ever, ever miss another video, because not only will you be seeing this video, you'll be seeing many others, especially Words of Wisdom and Pick a Card. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be talking about that's more story-oriented. I'm being called by Spirit to do that, and that will show up in another video. But yeah, yes. And if you want a more in-depth reading, you can go to bowtiepsychic.com, thebowtiepsychic.com, to schedule an appointment so you get a more in-depth reading. Also, what else? What can I do? And also, if you want to ask questions, leave comments and stuff like that, and talk to me further about what you heard in this video, you can email me at bowtiepsychic@gmail.com. So thank you so much for watching this video and sharing your energy with me. I really appreciate it. And so until next time, peace.